All right. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Athletes Connect panel. We're so excited to have a vast variety of guests on our panel today. I think, the gist of the Athletes Connect in the past, this, just to give everybody a bit of a background, this started, in the beginning of the pandemic, right?
Yes.
As an idea for Marcia, that since it's caused us a lot of issues around the cancellation of sports and events and sports that we all love and dearly care about. And under that same breath, it was, okay, then what are we going to do? What are we going to do in terms of how do we stay in touch with each other, and how do we make sure that we keep this dialogue going as we have with teammates? And I think one of the greatest things about sports and the greatest lessons that we got from sport is our ability to adapt. And I think that's one thing that's come from sport for all of us that played a variety of sports. And so the coolest thing about our ability to adapt is we found a way to stay connected. And looking through the lens of inclusion, we were able to ride this wave together. It's been a tough challenge for everybody in many different ways. And so we've been able to kind of see how everybody's been handling COVID, how they've been, training and coping with nutrition, or even many different things we've all shared in this panel before, how everybody's become a professional chef or a landscaper or many different skills that you've picked up during the pandemic, which has been great. And so the topic that brings us together today is about the vaccines. And so I know Marcia's really excited to share about this. We got some great panelists on here. And just to give all our listeners a bit of a introduction, we'll go through a quick intro with everybody. So Marcia, why don't you start with yourself?
Hello, everyone. I am Marcia J. Barrett, and I am from the suburbs of Seattle, known as the East Side, specifically Redmond, Washington. Holla. And it's an honor that Shalom has been my co-host throughout this, or actually originally the host, but now my co-host throughout this. And he was the first person to really jump on and believe in my ideas. So I really do owe him quite a bit. And as of April 27th, if you can believe that, it'll be 1 year to the day since I came up with it. So again, thank you.
You're welcome, Marcia. Can you just give all our listeners a quick rundown on the sports that you've participated in at Special Olympics?
All right, I'll see if I can do my best to remember, because it's an extensive list, but it started with alpine skiing and swimming, softball. I've done athletics. I've done soccer, basketball, like football, bowling, bocce. I have done snowboarding in the past, and I'm also in athlete leadership year round, and I'm in the advanced levels. I'm working towards my advanced degree athlete leadership currently, actually.
She does it all. I like
Pretty
that.
much.
Sean, do you want to go next?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sean Pugh, and I'm a Special Olympics athlete from the capital area, which is Thurston County and Lewis County and Grace Harbor, and I believe Pacific County. And I've got a long list of sports too, just like what Marcia said. I have done team handball, I've done volleyball, I've done soccer, and right now I am doing track and field, basketball, bowling, and softball. And I'm also a former board member of Special Olympics Washington and a current AIC member and also a health messenger.
Sean, thanks for doing that. Really great to have you on. Megan?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Megan. I am from the Walla Walla area at Special Olympics. I am an athlete. I am an athlete leader and a health messenger. The sports I do are track, soccer, and bowling.
Nice, Megan. And really appreciate having you on. We're certainly looking forward to getting your insight about the vaccine and just the pandemic as a whole and what you're excited and looking forward to. So again, really appreciate having you on. Why don't we go to Bree? We're excited to have you on. Thanks for joining us. Why don't you get everybody a little bit of a background around yourself and some of the programs you're affiliated with?
Yeah, just hearing all those sports listed made me really excited for things to start opening back up again. Very cool, everything that you guys are doing. I'm Bree Schaaf. I am originally from Bremerton, Washington. I live there now. I went to Olympic High School, played volleyball, basketball, and ran track there. I am currently the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee Athletes Advisory Council Chair. So I'm the chair of the organization that's kind of like the Athletes Union for the Olympic and Paralympic movement there. So I'm retired from sport, but I did play volleyball at Portland State University, just a little bit south. And I competed at the Vancouver 2010 Olympics in women's bobsled, which was really cool because it was like a home Olympics. My whole family just got in, did a caravan and drove up to the Olympics. It was really cool. And I told my coach, nope, I'm riding home with my parents. Not going to take a flight. It was fantastic. But I'm really excited to be here today. Very passionate about Special Olympics. One of the first jobs that I took when I was retired was for an elite track and field club that I used to train with. And I was very excited to form a partnership with Special Olympics Arizona down there in Arizona to have the track and field athletes training with Special Olympics track and field athletes. It was very cool. So thank you so much for having me today.
Really appreciate your insight about that. I know you'll provide us some valuable insight to not only how our athletes are preparing, as return to play is around the corner, or if not here now, and we're all optimistic about that. But then also you can give us insight about how the athletes are preparing for Tokyo's, the Olympics, how that delay has affected them. And so again, looking through the lens of inclusion, we're excited to get your insight about that and how we could take some small pieces of nuggets and learn from that. So thank you again. Darci.
Hello, everybody. I'm Darci Ladwig. I am the Informing Families Coordinator in the Spokane County, and I'm Zoe's mom. My daughter Zoe has been a bowling athlete with Special Olympics in the past, and we would like to get connected back to that again. But I'm really happy to join you today and hopefully be a resource for information on disabilities in our state, as well as we have some resources about COVID and the vaccines. So thank you for having me.
Darci, that's fantastic. We're looking forward to getting your insight on some of those resources as again, this return to play and the excitement around that, especially around the vaccine and all the news around that. We're looking forward to getting some of your insight on that. So thank you again for coming on board. Jeremy, last but not least.
Hey everyone, my name is Jeremy Norden-Paul. I'm really happy to be here. I'm the Executive Director of the Washington State Developmental Disabilities Council. And we have a bunch of governor-appointed members. So it's pretty cool that our members are appointed by the governor. And our job really simply is to help make the system work better for people with developmental disabilities. It's a really big, complicated system, and there aren't enough services and there aren't enough supports. And our job is to help fix that. And we do that through advocacy, which means that we're always talking with senators, representatives, the governor's office, people who are making decisions. So we advocate with them. And so one example of that, and then I'll turn it back over, is that recently we were one of the big organizations advocating for the COVID vaccine to be available to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their caregivers earlier than everyone else in the state. And so we were successful in that along with our other partners. And so that's just one example of how we advocate for things to be better. And hopefully you all saw that announcement and were able to get your vaccines. And if you haven't, that you are doing that soon.
As part of that, back in January, it'll be included in the resources. One of my mentors for athlete leadership, Jessamine McIntyre, who is one of the reporters and broadcasters, was able to get me interviewed about that with adult family homes and bring awareness to it. So to go with what Jeremy is saying, in a smaller way, I was able to help out as well. So there you go.
Nice, Marcia, and thank you for that, Jeremy. I mean, again, some great insight and resources. There's just so much great content here, and just to remind everybody, the way this is going to work is we've got so much great questions lined up for our panelists. This is for the next 30 minutes. We're going to be asking them questions that you will want to hear about in terms of the vaccine and how that affects, tomorrow and moving forward, right? And so under that same breath, my name is Shalom. I'm with a Special Olympics board member. I joined the Special Olympics board about this time last year, just as COVID hit. So just my timing. And so it's been a fun ride, Sid, and looking through the lens of making sure that you athletes, you're at the center of every single bit of our decision-making process so that we can create a fun opportunity and fun experiences. And so that's the goal here. And the Athletes Connect was, the gist of that was create a platform where athletes can connect around common trends, right? And how we can mentally and physically stay ready for competition. Now, I'll tell you what, competition's around the corner. We're excited about some of the virtual events coming up. And so with that being said, I'd love to, pose the first question to some of our athletes. Now, just a reminder to all our listeners, we want to make sure that this is an engaging conversation. So make sure if all our listeners can currently right now say, what sports you're affiliated with. We definitely want to know what sports you play. I'm intrigued to see if you play more than Marcia does.
Those are just the ones in Special Olympics. That's not all the sports I did growing up, but it's about tripled if you want to do every single sport. Shalom is laughing because he actually wrote down all the sports. I think it was 36 sports I've done in my life, 37, something like that.
I mean, it was too much to write down. I'll tell you that, Marcia. But the panelists are truly intrigued about what sports everybody plays out there, and then also would love to get an understanding about your who has taken the vaccine so far, just so we can get an idea on that so far. But I guess the first question I want to ask this first question to you, Marcia. Marcia, COVID has been challenging in many ways. Can you share with us some of the frustrations that missing out on some of the sporting events just around the pandemic as a whole? How has that impacted you?
It literally flipped my world upside down when everything was shut down so fast. It literally changed everything I ever knew to be as normal in the world of sports at the time, which is why come April, I had this big kind of gap in my life, and I was not really depressed so much more as I was feeling down. And that's, if you know me at all, I am not like that in the least bit. So that's when I was like, you know what, I got to come up with some sort of way to pick myself back up and keep moving forward, in the words of, Finding Nemo, in that way, because I'm just that type of person. So before too long, that's when this idea, which now we have, and it's the coolest thing ever, of Athletes Connect. And that's what's been one of the biggest kind of impacts, is that this idea came out of changing at the time.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I bet you there's so many other athletes that can resonate with you in regards to that, sharing the same frustration. Sean, what about you? How has COVID impacted you, and especially around, some of the frustrations without some of the sporting programs that Special Olympics Washington offers?
Glad you asked me that, because just like what Marcia says, what I miss about is that the in-person practicing with my teammates, whether it's bowling, basketball, or softball, or even track. But I have been staying in shape, whether it's working out at home or even going out for a run occasionally.
That's awesome, Sean. Now, you talk about some of your, your excitement around, in-person sports and the interaction that sports provides us. How is the vaccine, the news of the vaccine, how has it been excited, or maybe not exciting for you? Well,
I will be getting a vaccine tomorrow, so that's the good news, because I've been signed for to go up to Kent Senior Center, because what I've been hearing is that they offer appointments for Special Olympics athletes to get the vaccine. Mm-hmm. Would you ask me that question again?
No, I was just saying how, when you started to hear about the news about the vaccine being rolled out to everybody, mm-hmm. Did that excite you in a way about sport coming back? And you talked about wanting to do in-person training again and competitions. Was that
yes,
hearing the news?
Exactly. But Yes, exactly.
I like that.
I love that as well. That makes me feel good as well.
Yeah, Megan, what about yourself?
Sorry, what was the question again?
I was just saying, how, you know, what were some of the frustrations that COVID presented you, you know, during the pandemic, especially without the ability to play sports when all our sports got canceled?
So I want to say probably the hardest thing is probably just like competing with with my team and stuff. And but I have like during like the pandemic and stuff been like pretty much staying active doing the virtual games and stuff.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I bet everybody else can share the same things. Darci, I'll open this one up to you. You know, the vaccine's totally at the forefront of everybody's mind right now, right? The news of it anyway. Is there anything you can share with us around the importance of the vaccine, especially around, you know, return to play? Is there anything you can share around that?
That's a good question. I'm encouraged by the amount of people that are going out and getting the vaccine, and my daughter and I are both fully vaccinated now, so we are super excited about that. And I think that just the more people, and I think that we're hearing from that schools are opening back up fully, and we need to get to a point of some sort of normalcy, right? And where we feel confident that still with precautions that we're still washing our hands and trying to be as socially distanced as possible until we can get a better handle on this. And so I don't have anything specific except for that it's just encouraging that so many people are taking the step and getting their vaccine.
No, 100%. And it is exciting, you know, that everybody is taking that first step of getting their vaccine and the appointments and some of the challenges that are out there in regards to just getting access to it, right? From an availability standpoint and having troubles with booking their appointments and whatnot like that. And so, I mean, under that same breath, for those who have got vaccinated, can you share a little bit about, you know, how quickly can we continue with exercising or any level of exercising after getting vaccinated? Is there any news around that, especially for our athletes who are, you know, kind of like Sean's getting his vaccine tomorrow, for instance? Is there a stand down period in terms of returning to exercise?
Yes, it depends. Like if you're getting Moderna for the first vaccination, it's 4 weeks in between, whereas with Pfizer, it is 3 weeks in between. And then for the second vaccination, you subtract a week from those, and then that's your quarantine period for the second one. And once you reach that threshold at the minimum, that means you are fully vaccinated. So you should, like in a safe setting, you should be able to go back to full practice at that point. But it just depends on whether you're getting Moderna or Pfizer. If you happen to get Johnson & Johnson, it is 1 calendar month for the one. So right. From the day that you get your vaccination for Johnson & Johnson, it is 1 full month in particular. But after that, it's the same sort of idea ideally.
Yeah. So what if I played a wide variety of sport and I got my vaccine tomorrow? Jimmy, can you touch on, am I allowed to start training the next day? Are there any dangers to that?
You know, kind of like Marcia was saying, you know, I'm not a scientist, I'm not an expert on that, but, you know, everything that I've been reading and like Marcia's been saying is that it's important to follow the waiting period because your body needs time to build up antibodies, which is what the little things in your body, they're going to fight off the virus. And if you go back to your normal life too soon, you might not be fully vaccinated yet, and you might either get yourself sick or get someone else sick. So it's important to listen to your doctor and follow that waiting period that Marcia was talking about. I'll share with you that I just got my first vaccine on Sunday in my left arm. I got the Moderna, and so I got to wait 4 weeks now to my next one. I've done a lot of reading, a lot of research on this, and I feel really confident about getting it. And I mentioned that we've done a lot of advocacy. So I've been advocating on this for almost a year now. So, you know, like I feel very confident, very informed, very educated about it. And so I was really excited to get it. And something else I'll say is, you know, some people are worried about their own health. Like, I'm getting this vaccine because I don't want to get sick, and that's cool. Some people are worried about maybe their child or their grandparent, and that's why they get vaccinated. But I want to say that another good reason to get vaccinated is that there's other people out there in the community who are still like at risk. Like you might not even know them. There are even some people who physically can't get the vaccine because they have a compromised immune system or some other condition where they're not allowed to get the vaccine. So those people are counting on us, the rest of us, to do our part to build up herd immunity, we call it. We need as many people as possible getting vaccinated so that those people are protected. So a way to think about it is, even if you're not worried about yourself or your family, think about the other people in the community who can't get the vaccine, who might, if they get sick, it could be really, really bad. So I think it's just a real important issue. And, I just highly encourage everyone who's able to get out there and get vaccinated. I do have a website link that I can share with you to help with your appointment scheduling. So Shalom, just let me know if I can put that in the chat box or talk about that link, just when would be a good time.
Absolutely. And I think that's the greatest thing about this panel and the conversations they have here is Leah will be able to share resources and follow-up emails with that conversation here, because I'm sure there are athletes out there who are unsure how to even get access to this, right? Who are having trouble booking appointments, and maybe there's not appointments in their areas. And so there are all sorts of challenges there are out there. We are navigating this together. And the exciting part is we have, experts on this call who have experience in doing this. So thank you, Jeremy, for that. I think last question, Jeremy, before you jump off here, is you talked about advocating for athletes with intellectual disabilities. Can you share a little bit more about that?
With the COVID or just in general?
Yeah, well, just with the vaccine and making sure.
Yeah. So initially, at the very beginning of the pandemic, our advocacy was not really about the vaccine, but it was about healthcare. Because you know what we were worried about a year ago? It's hard to believe this, but a year ago, we were worried that hospitals would get really full and that doctors would have to make some really hard decisions about who they give care to and who they don't give care to.
And unfortunately, Medicaid
What's that, Marcia?
one of the, I was going to kind of jump in and say, and to go with it, Medicaid was going to be one of those services at the time that they were looking to kind of cut, so to speak, to go with what you're saying. And so that was also one of the biggest concerns 1 year ago.
We were worried about a lot of things, and people were worried about what they call rationing, which is where you only have a certain number of ventilators or a certain number of doctors, and they have to make some life and death decisions about who they treat. So we were really worried about discrimination against people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And we were like, we do not want anyone with intellectual developmental disabilities not getting their treatment just because of having a disability. And so we teamed up with other partner organizations to meet with the Department of Health and meet with the governor's office to say, you need to issue some clear statements, some clear guidance to make sure that there aren't any hospitals out there who are even thinking about discriminating. So that was the first part of advocacy. And then since then, it's been all about the vaccine and getting information out there. And so we've gotten information out there about keeping safe, social distancing, wearing masks. We've made that info available in other languages. We've made videos, we've done plain language resources. And then now it's been all about the vaccine, how to get vaccines to people. And now our next chapter of advocacy is going to be how do we help people who are in communities where they're having a really hard time getting the vaccine. So for example, if someone doesn't read or speak English, how are we going to help them make an appointment if they don't know how to use the system? Or maybe someone can't leave their house and they need people to come to them. How are we going to make sure that they get their vaccine? So right now, those are the things we're advocating for.
Wow, Jeremy, what if we have some of those people on there listening on our call right now? How can we help them?
The best thing to do, you mean in terms of people who can't leave their house or don't know
leave their house, maybe availability, maybe
who, like you said, have a compromised immune system and are even higher risk, that sort of thing.
So a couple of things I'd recommend is one is we have an Informing Families project. Darci's a coordinator for that. We have a lot of really great resources on our website. I can share the link. And so the first thing I would do is share those links with people. There's videos to listen to, flyers to look at, different languages. And so the first step is educating people so that they know, hey, it's important to get the vaccine. And then in terms of the getting appointments, I would recommend following the link I just put in the chat box to find sites near you. And if people need help actually getting to appointments, what I would recommend is calling your local health department. I know that that sounds kind of weird, but maybe I can find a link to share with you. But the local health departments should be able to connect you with resources to either get you to an appointment or somehow get a vaccine to you. So that's what I'd recommend.
Jeremy, that's really helpful information. And I certainly learned a lot just from that little passage of information. So we truly appreciate your insight on that. Bree, given your background and relationships with many of the Olympic sports and the excitement around Tokyo, there's been so much conversation around that. Just from your perspective, what has been some of the main challenges that, the Olympic athletes have shared during the pandemic, and especially preparing for Tokyo? What's some of the things that you've been hearing that could possibly resonate with our athletes?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest issues we've had is with qualifications right now, and events being canceled or events having an outbreak, quite frankly, because the vaccine rollout is so different in every country. There was a big fencing tournament, and there was an outbreak within that tournament that then took athletes out of it that now don't have a chance to qualify for the Tokyo Olympics. So I know at the Team Germany Olympic Committee did state that they are vaccinating their entire team now, and they are prioritizing that. And that, of course, is a big priority for the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee as well. And the latest news today from the COVID working group that meets weekly on that is they have been working so hard to try and coordinate vaccines for the athletes that are trying to qualify for Tokyo. But an interesting facet of that is that, so in order to get on that plane to go to Tokyo and compete at the Olympics or Paralympics, you have to have a COVID-free test within 72 hours, right? Much like a lot of the travel right now. But it's possible to hold on to that virus. If you test positive for COVID, some people stay positive for up to 90 days. So we are 92 days out of the Olympics and Paralympics right now. And so a big concern for athletes is get your vaccine as soon as possible, because otherwise you are risking your Olympics, not even just by going to a tournament, if you are one of those people that for some reason does continue to test positive there. So we are really, trying to make sure that athletes have local access to get vaccines now that it's widely open. And that's a big priority. It is a choice, but that definitely helps team sports. It's especially hard for the team sports right now.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned some really great points there. I think one of the main points that I heard there was that it is a choice, right? It is a choice for all our athletes. Yes, the vaccine is encouraged, and Jeremy and Darci have did a great job, highlighting the I guess all the positives around it, around taking the vaccine. But Bree, could you share a little bit about, what happens if we don't take the vaccine? I mean, what are some of the dangers around that? Not only for you as an individual, as an athlete, in terms of competing in Tokyo, but what about for everybody else? What are some of the
myself? What's one of the dangers?
Right. And so technically there is HIPAA, right? So that testing should all be confidential. That should not be something that your team has in some sort of public file. However, it does become pretty clear if someone is pulled from competition. And so you do risk your entire team once things get going if you expose your team. Not only does that take you yourself out, it puts others at risk, but puts the entire team at risk. We saw lots of college teams pull out of the NCAA basketball tournament because of outbreaks there. So that's really important to note. And for me, personally, now that I'm retired, it's really important to me to protect those vulnerable, around me. I want to be able to see my parents without fear that I'm bringing something to them. My grandma is in a special care facility in Seattle, and I would love to be able to visit her, and just the thought, I don't know about you guys, but just the thought of, now that they've opened it up to everyone, the thought of having the vaccine and what that means for, our ability to do things without fear and interact and start. Obviously, we all want to be safe. You want to continue to wear a mask. You want to continue to follow protocol. But the idea that maybe we can start living life with a little bit less fear now and a little bit more confidence, I think it's very cool, because that's, all of you are fearless athletes, doing your sports. And so I think that's going to be huge. And especially in just even that hope, right? Thinking about that, going forward, just to me, gave me a huge boost.
Wow.
Hope is more powerful than fear.
Absolutely.
Fantastic, Bree. I mean, there's some great insights there in terms of just the general excitement around getting the vaccine right now, and how everybody is optimistic about just going back to pre-COVID states in terms of participating in the sports that, that mean a lot so much. And I'm a big advocate for, I truly believe that sport will be one of the vehicles that will help bring our community back together after such You know,
Sport is a universal language like math
Right.
and music. It really is. That's
Yeah.
what we all are here is under the power of sports. It doesn't matter what sport, we all have a connection in some way, and I love it.
Absolutely, Marcia. And just to get everybody, please keep your Q&As coming. We've got about 5 or so minutes here before we open it up to the floor with Q&As. But I mean, just going off the back of Bree's comments, I mean, Sean, what are your thoughts about athletes who decide to do the vaccine versus those who don't? What are your thoughts around that, Sean?
Well, it's like what Bree said. If you don't get your vaccine, you're running a risk with your teammate. But you shouldn't fear about getting a vaccine because it's kind of just like getting a flu shot.
Do you think there are a lot of athletes out there who are possibly just nervous around it because this could be their first, vaccine shot of some sort? What do
Well,
you
the only thing they need to not worry about is that just because they get a vaccine doesn't mean they can remove their mask. They still have to wear their masks until the coronavirus has totally disappeared.
I like that. I like that response, Sean. And for those on the panel, for those who have been, very fortunate to get vaccinated, what advice, wisdom that, do you have for others that haven't been yet?
Well, my advice is get it as soon as you can, because now there are some that are really packed and you have to be on a waiting list. The only thing you need to worry about is being on the waiting list for too long, and you just don't know when you're going to get a call and they tell you your appointment has been set.
My best piece of wisdom advice to people is if you're really nervous or apprehensive or concerned about getting the vaccine, think of it this way. Look at it this way. Think of yourself like preparing for, like the spring games or the USA games, or which are the nationals or the world games or something like that. And that this is just one of those steps that is needed in the process. And if anything, not only will you be helping yourself out and helping out your immediate like tribe and village, but you'll also be helping out the community and everyone in that way. So if anything, you're doing your part to be part of the solution, not the problem.
Yeah, just like what you said, besides your community, you're also your teammates also.
Yeah, Marcia, what are some of the things you're looking forward to once things are up and running again with the vaccine in full swing?
The big one for me is swimming aquatics. If you know me well, I'm a swimmer, and actually over my shoulder, I have a trading card from my very first year on my club team back in the day when I was 10 years old. So that's the big thing I'm looking forward to, is getting back into the pool and competing again. But just as a whole, being able to reach back out and have those connections in person. Not that virtually is bad, it's just not quite the same. So
I'm just looking forward to getting, besides swimming, which is individual sports, I'm looking forward to getting back into team sports like basketball and softball.
Ditto. And Megan, what about you? What's something that you're really looking forward to? Not if, but when we're able to return.
I would say probably track.
Both the individual
soccer,
and team sport.
Track soccer, track, bowling.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Shalom? What's something that you're looking forward to in particular? Since you've been the one asking the questions, I'm going to flip it and ask you this time. So what's something that you in particular are looking forward to? Not if, but when we go back to normal. Not just normal, but normal.
Well, you know what? Since the inception of this Athletes Connect, I've heard about so many different sports. I've heard how talented everybody that has been, not only on the panels, but, even our listeners who have challenged me to come try their sport. And so I'll admit right now, I'm no genius when it comes to all these other different sports outside of rugby, but I would be willing to give it a try. So that I am excited about. I'm excited to come and coach some of these different sports that are all new to me. And so I'm looking forward to giving it a try with you all. And I'm just excited, like Sean mentioned, in-person interactions, team team camaraderie and what that looks like. And so overall, I'm just excited about, sports in general coming back.
Well, if you need any help in swimming, aquatics in particular,
And I have to say, I would have to say, it does not have to be with sports you're looking forward to. It could be other activities that you're used to doing, like for instance, the transportation in my area. They just suspended routes up north, and I have not been taking trips up to Seattle and hang around there because I do not really trust drivers. Even though I do have a driver's license, I just do not trust drivers on the freeways like they like to speed around. And plus the other thing too, I during the falls and spring, I park cars at the Washington State Fair.
Oh, we're in Puyallup? That's
yes.
Awesome.
And the thing of it is, I haven't been doing that because of the transportations have suspended the routes that I need to connect.
Well, another thing I'm looking forward to that I don't know if you guys necessarily know, but last year the Royal Rumble in WWE was supposed to be held in Seattle. Actually, technically this year, but since it was still virtual and stuff, so they've, at least for now, the tentative thing is that it's supposed to be this next year, which actually is just in time for the opening of our new Climate Pledge Arena for the Kraken. So I don't know if you guys are excited about the Kraken like I am, but that's another thing that's going to be fun, is to go back to wrestling events in person and stuff. Like, no offense to the Thunderdome, but it's never the same as an in-person event for sure.
That's just the Seattle getting an NHL team
this next year, literally.
Yep, that's right. Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it, Marcia. I'm certainly excited about some of these in-person events as well outside of sport. And Sean, you bring up great points. It really isn't just around sport, right? There are day-to-day items, things that we are looking forward to going back to and having some level of normalcy. So great points there. And so, Leah, I think it's time to turn it over to some Q&As. What Q&As have been coming in so far?
Thank you, Jeremy, for being a part of us. He's got to jump off. So.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I got to go get my daughter, but thank you so much for this opportunity. I just put my email address in the chat box in case anyone wants to talk or just chat. So thank you again. I hope the rest of your Q&A goes well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Jeremy. Yes, I think the question that I will start with was from Candace, and she was clarifying, had a clarifying question or comment about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which I think might be good to mention. So as Candace said, she said Johnson & Johnson, that it's been suspended because there's been some complications, that a few women have now gotten blood clots since taking the vaccine.
Yes.
And so I am just wondering if anyone wants to share what they know, and I'm happy to as well, but any updates there for the larger group to be aware of.
As far as I know, as of last week, it is still suspended to my knowledge, and I could be totally wrong by now, but I heard as of the 16th, it is fully suspended here in the United States. I cannot necessarily say the same about other countries. I just know that at least for now here in our country, that it is suspended until they are able to ideally, hopefully, fix the issues.
Yeah, it's good to be aware of. And I think, I believe Europe is moving back towards.
Yes, I heard that.
Again. Mm-hmm.
I heard that. Yes.
Again,
yes.
as of, I believe, the 16th or close enough to it. Like, this is just in the last few days.
Mm-hmm. And so, Candace, thank you for mentioning that. You're right. It's one to just something to understand and be aware of. So thanks for bringing that up. Yes. Okay. There's a question. This one is for Bree from Lizzie, and she was asking more about the French Olympic Committee. And she asked if they are vaccinating their delegation quickly as well.
I don't know anything specific on the French Olympic Committee, but I would assume so. I know there was a lot of countries. This was a big debate, actually. Within that vaccine rollout is, do you prioritize athletes or don't you prioritize athletes? In Western countries, that really blew up of, no, we need to prioritize the vulnerable first. The athletes are not vulnerable. And the U.S. Olympic Committee Athletes Advisory Council did take a stance on that, saying that we will wait our proper place in line. And so a lot of those countries did say, nope, we're going to wait until it is opened up. And I believe the reason Germany was able to come out with their prioritization now of German athletes is because that is open to the wider population in their country. So specifically to France, I don't know, but I know that a lot of the countries, the US will probably be the most vaccinated team, to be honest. You know, as you guys have seen, the vaccines are, the rollout is going really well here. Now it's available to all adults, and that's not the same case around the world, which poses another interesting issue of, is competition fair if the rest of the world doesn't have equal access to vaccines? So a lot of Pandora's boxes I just opened there.
But that's not a bad thing. If anything, that's actually honestly a day-to-day kind of ongoing topic and discussion that I'm on input council here in the area. Like, I'm on an area council, and then I'm the representative to the state council. So it's those are the type of questions to actually be surprised that I get asked locally and stuff, like, if not daily, like weekly and stuff. And for a while it was to where, like, I was getting asked like probably 100 or 200 times in the course of the week to see those kind of questions. So it's something that is global, not just, you know, one country specific from experience.
Yeah, and that's not to say that it doesn't, that there are some athletes that might want the vaccine because it is very stressful to train and not know if you are putting, you want to be prepared for the Olympics, you might need to qualify for the Olympics. And so it is very, very stressful not knowing when you might have access to the vaccine and you can train in confidence again.
Exactly. And just, and it's the same sort of questions and uncertainties that us in Special Olympics face. So again, these are universal themes that we all connect over, and that's what I love about sports, is it truly is a universal, and it's one of the greatest.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree on that.
Megan, do you have anything to add to this?
That's great though. And feel free, everyone, if you have questions, you can put them in the chat, or there's a little Q&A bubble at the bottom of the screen. I do have a question from Spencer, and he asked, do we have a plan for those who unfortunately may not want to get the vaccine? And if so, how can we return to sports for those people? And so what I can answer from the Special Olympics Washington perspective is that we are not requiring that athletes get the vaccine to participate. And so that will not be, you do not have to in order to participate, but we highly, highly encourage that you do get the vaccine for everything that we've been talking about today, to help keep yourself safe, to help keep your family members and your teammates safe, and the whole community around you. So Spencer, I hope that answers your question.
And you also you still got to be social distancing 6 feet apart, and also wear a mask when you do get the vaccine.
Absolutely. You're right, Sean. And so so we will know more about whether Special Olympics will be returning to in-person at the beginning of May. Our spring season is where our website is launching today. You can start registering for the spring season. I will put that in the chat. And at the beginning of May, we'll know whether or not we will be able to be in person for the summer. And so I will also share with everyone there, we will have a town hall early May to ask questions about it and learn more if we are going back to in person. You'll learn more about all of the important things that you just mentioned, Sean, about the safety of continuing to wear your mask and being 6 feet apart. You can ask all of those questions and learn what's coming up next. So I'll make sure everyone has that.
What I like to point out what you said about the beginning of May. I just got an email from Mark Barker, and he said that it should be you guys make a decision on the 1st of May.
Exactly. And then on the 5th of May, there'll be a town hall for athletes and coaches and families to ask questions.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Stay tuned for more.
Oh, yeah.
And here is the link for everyone.
Keep those questions rolling in, everyone. This has been a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Marcia, what are your thoughts? You talked about the Johnson & Johnson being, posing some questions around safety. What's your, for those who haven't got vaccinated, do you have a recommendation on a particular vaccination?
If you can, I would recommend Pfizer. It has the highest success rate overall, and it also has amongst the lowest quarantine or in between periods, so to speak. So if you want something where it's got less of a wait time, Pfizer is the way to go, so to speak. But if you're unable to, Moderna is just slightly less effective, but it's still extremely effective. But that's just me. But it just is really a matter of like which one you're able to get to, because most of the time you don't necessarily get to have that choice. But if you are blessed and are able to choose, I would recommend the Pfizer one, but that's just my thinking.
And if you are a Special Olympics athlete, I recommend that what I've been now hearing, that get it at the Kent Senior Center, because
if you're able to, because
able to, but for others who do not not Special Olympics athlete, I recommend that if you're going to get it in Kaiser Permanente, you should get it the one on Martin Luther King Way in Tacoma.
Well, or just most Kaisers are, because what if here's a good what if scenario. What if we have somebody who is out in, say, Yakima area, which is, like central Washington, like central eastern
Washington. They should go to the one in Spokane. If they're in eastern Washington, recommend them going to the one in Spokane.
That's like a 2.5 hour drive.
It is.
So
is.
That's why I'm trying to give you a good what if scenario, because Washington State is pretty diverse in that way. So.
I don't pay that too much attention about if there is a Kaiser Permanente in Yakima, but maybe Tri-Cities, if they how packed their and the waiting lists are at the Kaiser Permanente in the Tri-Cities.
Ooh, we just got something really good in the chat here just now. It says, I'd love to hear from the athletes how they would encourage someone to get the vaccine who is hesitant on receiving it. So Bree, Megan, Sean, and Shalom, what's your guys' take on that in particular?
Megan, you start?
Oh, yeah. You've been a little quiet, so why don't you say something, Megan?
All right. So what was the question again, Marcia?
Well, it wasn't a question. It came up in the chat. It said, I would love to hear from the athletes how they would encourage someone to get the vaccine. Like, so if you're talking to someone who is hesitant on receiving it at first, what would you say to this person who is a little hesitant? Like, what would be your kind of trying to encourage them?
So I guess I would just like encourage them to get it. I would tell them, so I would let them know, like, kind of like, I'm trying to think of a way, well, because I haven't had it myself, so like I can maybe like, tell other people, like tell the individual, like someone else, like what someone else is like, how like this side effects from it or something. I don't know.
Or just
I like to say that it's, think of it as like getting a flu shot.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Thinking it like kind of getting like a flu shot.
Yes.
What about you, Bree? How would you try and encourage someone who is, hesitant at first and wanting to get the vaccine?
Not to sound a bit maybe morbid with this, but I feel like there's a lot more listed side effects and potential lasting effects of COVID itself. than the vaccine. And so to me, the potential risk, we've seen professional athletes miss entire seasons. So we had a lot of the talk early on was that young, healthy individuals are safe, but we saw a lot of professional athletes and Olympic and Paralympic athletes miss their competition seasons and have extended issues. There was a swimmer that said there's a rower actually that said that they still, a year out are not at the same lung capacity and VO2 max that they were prior to getting COVID. So to me, I think the side effects and potential long-term effects of COVID itself are, far scarier than the vaccine side effects.
What about you, Shalom? Same to you.
Yeah, I think exactly the same thing in terms of the side effects. I think there are more pros and cons to it in regards to that. I think, I personally myself haven't had the vaccine in terms of getting access to it, but under that same breath, it's about just wanting a return to play, wanting the safety of others that are around us, and making sure that we, just do our part in the community to bring together a safer community, right? And to look forward to participating in sports again, and then, just our health in general. And so I can definitely understand the stance of not getting the vaccine. But at the same time, you start to weigh things up, and, I'd lean towards encouraging those to get it.
For me, yes, I'm with you guys, but also it's that how I've had to kind of think of it is this way. Is it worth it? Like really with that what if scenario kind of thing, like how I've had to put it, people think of it as the ultimate what if scenario. And in that way, is it going to be worth it not getting that vaccine, that what if scenario versus it? I'd rather take, like the side effects from getting it at first and stuff and getting it out of the way quickly than having months and even possibly years of not necessarily knowing.
It's like taking a chance.
It's the ultimate chance.
Ultimate chance that you're going to regret it if you don't take the vaccine.
I would love to hear Darci's perspective too. I think she brings a great perspective as a mom that we don't have with the rest of our panelists.
Sure. So at first I was able to get the shot first because I am my daughter's care provider, and I live in Spokane. We live in Spokane, and I think it looks different throughout like the state. And we our arena is doing like mass appointments and vaccinations, and that's where both of us got the shot. And I was glad how it worked out that I was able to get the shot first, because I was worried about Zoe is medically fragile, and I was worried about and with breathing problems and issues. I consulted her doctors and was wondering, is this something she should get? Should we just continue? Because we've been isolating for a year, and I'm willing to do that for her, and I was able to do that for her. But that gets hard, as you all know, to not be around other people. And her pulmonologist was like, definitely, as soon as she can get it, it doesn't matter which one, just make sure that she gets it. And so, and some of the other things, I think I'm a little neurotic because of her medical needs, but like hand washers, and like worried about like being around people when they're sick, even before COVID. And so I was worried about like going into a mass setting, but they're at least here. And I would think that all of the sites are there. It's a well-oiled machine. It's like you get your appointment, there's a little bit of waiting, you have paperwork that you bring with you, that they keep you distanced, they're wiping off seats while you either have to wait 15 minutes or a half an hour. I've had anaphylaxis before, so I had to wait a half hour after it, but I didn't have any complications. But they're cleaning your seats after you're out of there. They're moving people through. And Zoe has never had, we always use like a thigh vaccination versus a arm vaccination, but she did amazing. And so like the worst part is always like being like somebody holding her arm and stuff, but like the poke. And both of us had a little bit of a reaction from the second one, where we like, there was maybe 10 hours that we like didn't feel great, had chills and kind of flu-like symptoms. But definitely worth it. So depending on like what is like your reason from not getting it, I mean, I think there's all kinds of different barriers that people could have, but definitely I would encourage it, and it's very much worth it.
And to answer what Lizzie was just saying in the chat, yes, both Darci and Zoe are fully vaccinated. She asked it
Yes.
twice in a row.
Oh,
So
okay,
I didn't
yes.
want to interrupt, but I saw
No.
that in the chat pop
Yeah.
up, so I was waiting patiently. So to confirm,
So we're
Lizzie,
excited to kind of be out and be able to enjoy the community. We actually live pretty close to well, we're like 6 miles from the Idaho border, and went it was a beautiful weekend here, the weather, and went walking in Coeur d'Alene, and I was surprised that they're very much opened up, and like just after a year of not really being around people, it was like there was almost that nervousness about being in society, and it's like, how do I behave around people, and oh, don't get too close to me, but we'll get back there.
Speaking of stadiums, Lumen Stadium, which used to be CenturyLink Field, is doing vaccinations here in our area. So for some of our attendees who are in our area and haven't had the chance, you should check it out and everything, because I know, like, I've been hearing about it in the last month and how it's been hugely successful so far. So if you need another place to go, why not check it out? And you get to go to the same place that your beloved Seahawks and Sounders play at.
I love that as an added bonus.
I like to add that I think I heard some fairgrounds also are getting
Skagit County has, I know of for certain, has in the past. I'm not sure if they still do, but they were doing it early on in the rollout and stuff up in Skagit County.
I heard Thurston County Fair in Thurston County is getting it. I'm not sure about the Washington State Fair.
Walla. Yeah.
Yep. So I hope that helps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it definitely does. And I'll make sure to send again the link that Jeremy put in the chat, which is to help everyone find the sites that are closest to them. Because of course we're all across the state here. So a lot of different options. So we'll make sure that that's an easy one.
Don't forget the Dragons. I forgot about the Dragons, the XFL team as well.
That's great. Well, we are almost right at 5 o'clock here. Shalom and Marcia, do you have some closing words for us?
Shalom, why don't you take away first?
No, I just wanted to thank all our panelists for taking the time, even our listeners, to ask important questions around the vaccine right now. I know that we're getting to a point where activities are slowly starting to open up. Not only that, just general things about our health and as a whole. And so I'm excited with the information that is available right now, and especially the opportunity about the vaccines and what that means to us in terms of return to play.
I'd like to thank everyone here as being part of my journey, a little more than a year in the making. And as part of it, I tell people all the time that I'm grateful. Like, that is the word to explain my daily life, is gratitude and being grateful that I can still have something to both complain about and look forward to. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it so much.
I think also I saw that Emily, another place where they're getting vaccinated, I think Safeway is also, because
if they have a pharmacy there, because not all Safeways have pharmacies, but if they do, that is actually a good one to check out as well. Yes.
Yeah, Emily Robertson posted that.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. There's so many really great resources that I'm going to send to everyone in an email. And if you have any more questions about any of this, I know Jeremy is really happy to answer questions about vaccines.